Hello, MennoNerds. This is the Scary Steve Kimes here to talk about churches again. All right. So, Paul, I get what you're saying. So the church is supposed to be the ones who are called out. Totally agree with you, yes. Although the word ecclesia, if you want to take it to the root form, sure, it means called out, but it's really more similar to just a kind of a play on words, because it's similar to the word synagogue, which was already used as a gathering place. And frankly, the colloquial use of the word ecclesia was just a gathering. Like the word ecclesia is used in Luke to talk about a crowd that happened to just pop up, a flash mob. Oh, that's actually kind of cool. Church as flash mob. I'll save that for my next video. Okay, so the thing is that what I was talking about at the beginning of this whole series was actually church buildings. We don't want to confuse, of course, church buildings with the church or the group of people who are gathered together in the name of Jesus. Those are two completely different entities. Of course, the church can be anywhere at any time. Hello, motorcycle. Can be anywhere at any time. Doesn't have to even be in a building. We can be out in the field, and that's still the church. But the thing is that I think that the church, the real church, the invisible church, has often been confused by churches or church buildings. So the thing is that we are supposed to be called out. We are supposed to be different from the world. But how are we supposed to be different from the world? Jesus is supposed to make that difference, right? We all agree on that. So the thing is that Jesus calls the church to be persecuted, and yet the church right now is not being isn't interested in being persecuted and wants to avoid being persecuted by being a part of the system of the world. Jesus calls us to love, and instead a lot of times the church is hiding and wanting to isolate ourselves from people who really need to be loved. But the main thing that I want to bring up is the one passage where Jesus says, "Sell your possessions and give to the poor." I know I talk about it and Michael talks about it, but I want to just bring it up again. Sell your possessions and give to the poor is supposed to be one of the main characteristics of the church, a way that we are supposed to be called out, a way that we're supposed to be really different from the world. And this isn't in the way of just giving charity. The world does that. This isn't in the way of getting a tax deduction on your on what you have. The world does that. No, rather Jesus said, sell your possessions. Get rid of what you have and give to the poor. Not give to organizations of the poor, but actually give to the poor, hand stuff to the poor. And the early church, we see that they were acting as the church by following that command, by people giving money to the apostles, and then the apostles buying food and other necessities and giving them directly to the poor. And they figured that that's just another way of obeying Jesus' commands. And so this was the system that was set up in the early church, and in fact, actually, by the 3rd century, when the church was being a little bit more determined and set in stone, you could not call yourself a church unless you were a church that had a program for the poor. If you didn't have a program for the poor, you couldn't be a church. Boom, you weren't called one. Okay, but now we're stuck in a place where we have all these churches, a lot of really small, tiny churches. And all of these small, tiny churches have the idea that to be a church is that we have to have, first of all, paid salary, and we have to have a church building. This sucks our money out. This is where our money is going. So it's no longer going to the poor. It's going to our programs and going to the building and going toward a salary. And instead of actually helping the people that really need to be helped, we are spending it on ourselves. We are providing ourselves with buildings when we already have buildings called homes. We are providing ourselves things. Now, I'm not against buildings. I'm definitely not against having separate buildings, but the primary function of a building should be to help the poor, not to be a gathering place when we already have gathering places or we could meet in the field. Our primary focus should be helping the poor, helping the oppressed. Our help of the oppressed shouldn't just be standing out there and holding a sign or putting things on Facebook, but instead it should be where putting our money where our mouth is, and being out there and providing for people who don't have, providing homes, providing food, providing clothing, providing shelter for people who do not have it. And there's lots of churches that do that, but the fact is that we are falling behind other programs, other nonprofit agencies, and thinking that we're going to let them do it, which is fine. We want as many people doing this as possible, but you know what? At the church, we should be at the forefront of it. Okay, rant over. Bye.